Over Christmas break, we met on Zoom to work on our NFL Big Data Bowl submission.
All right, gang. Thanks for meeting.
We almost had paralysis by analysis. We had so many different things that we wanted to do.
So I kind of just copy and pasted their code, and then I used ChatGPT to add some features that I wanted.
Without ChatGPT, there was no way we'd be able to submit anything for the Big Data Bowl.
We can stay in touch through the group chat. See you guys.
See you guys. Yeah, have a happy New Year.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Samara Firebaugh. I'm the Academic Dean and Provost here at the Naval Academy. It's not just about teaching them chemistry and physics and engineering and government and history. All these topics we teach are only a part of it. The mission drives everything we do here at the Naval Academy. We are also teaching them how to be leaders, how to integrate it all together, how to work in relationships, how to inspire. That transcends the knowledge in each of these areas. Generative AI might help to increase knowledge, but you need the people in the loop for the transcendence to become a leader.
In this episode, we're going to continue to ask the question, what is education? What constitutes education at the Naval Academy and beyond? So we're going to examine claims that are made about the nature of artificial intelligence and its ability to completely transform education as we know it. Those claims are worth exploring a little bit.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I think this is a turning point in human civilization.
I think we're at the cusp of using AI for probably the biggest positive transformation that education has ever seen.
Homework is over, right? There's not a homework assignment basically anywhere that a well-prompted AI can't solve at this point.
When these new waves appear, there are always these grand pronouncements about how this is fundamentally going to change everything, how it's going to improve everything. And then we often the results end up looking a little bit different. Is this one going to be different, or where do you see this heading?
Yeah, so I was at a conference at Harvard where a fellow named Ethan Malik, who's been very enthusiastic about AI, was talking about his sort of optimistic views, and he was saying that AI was going to democratize education, that everyone is going to have free access to these kind of personalized tutors, and someone was like, well, weren't MOOCs supposed to democratize education? He's like, oh, no, MOOCs were silly. MOOCs were just a bunch of, you're just watching, like, people sitting by themselves watching a bunch of videos. Like, how could that be interesting? And I was thinking, 10 years ago, we were like, well, of course, textbooks weren't going to democratize education. You need these really, carefully made, personalized videos, humanistic videos. That's what was going to transform education. And I'm sure 10 years from now, there's going to be someone sort of watching recordings of Ethan Malik's talk being like, of course you're not going to transform education with a bunch of kids sitting in front of tutor bots. Like, no one wants to talk to their computer. It doesn't matter how compelling it is. When a kid is sitting down trying to learn algebra or something like that, you can build a great instructional sequence with textbooks. You can build a great instructional sequence with videos. You can build a great instructional sequence with a tutor bot. But none of that matters because the kid doesn't really want to learn algebra. What the kid wants to do is build a relationship with their teacher and the peers around them. Learning is just a fundamentally social enterprise.
Wow, I couldn't say it any better. I love that. I absolutely agree with that. It is a fundamentally social enterprise.
How do you see then this next coming wave actually impacting us in light of that need for human interaction?
Well, I think it just goes to the importance of the human still being in the classroom, that the instructor is still there, the role of the instructor as a leader themselves. Because in the end, that's what some of that is saying, that we can provide all these resources, but the students need to want to take it. They need to want to learn. I'd really like to talk about what I consider relationship-rich education. I think one thing that I learned in the pandemic that I really came to appreciate is how important relationships are in education.
There's speculation that there will always be a need for a human in the classroom, or at least somehow involved in the educational process. Now, if ChatGPT can provide unlimited amounts of information, what's the role for the human in the loop in the educational process?
That is a great question, and it kind of gets to something that's very important to me, which is the idea of relationship-rich education. I think one thing that we learned in the pandemic, we did our very best, but even having people remote and connecting through screens something was lost. Some level of personal connection was lost.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can everybody hear me now?
And I think it's especially important when you're looking at the Naval Academy with our responsibility to educate leaders, and above all things, leadership is a relationship.
You're directed to assume command in your leadership role.
To make sure that we are not just conveying content.
So if we can turn to page 62.
We're not just challenging students to think.
How does the technology do in the battle?
But we're also working on their empathy, working on their ability to truly communicate, which is not just words.
I love it. That's terrific.
Communication is gestures. It's being attuned to the whole context of a situation.
So you'll notice that the technology isn't the thing that's going to get the job done. In fact, the technology is what lets him down.
All of those things are best taught human to human, or kneecap to kneecap, as the Marines would say, right?
Right.
And that means that at the same time as I'm teaching midshipmen about Kirchhoff's law and my earlier identity as electrical engineering professor, I also need to be teaching them a model of leadership. And I think that requires a human.
So, anyone who's been paying attention for the last few months has been seeing headlines like this, especially in education. The thesis has been students are going to be using ChatGPT and other forms of AI to cheat, do their assignments, they're not going to learn, and it's going to completely undermine education as we know it. But I think we're at the cusp of using AI for probably the biggest positive transformation that education has ever seen. And the way we're going to do that is by giving every student on the planet an artificially intelligent but amazing personal tutor.
Well, I agree that it creates a tool, but I feel like that a relationship with the computer is always going to be illusory.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samantha.
That it's not going to have that genuine connection. There's even a danger there that when we see kind of higher rates of loneliness in today's younger generation, and is that happening because we are more engaged with electronics and replacing genuine human interactions with these illusions of it?
Can you feel me with you right now?
Yes, I do.
A relationship is two ways. I don't see generative AI replacing the full needs of a relationship in that same way.
Welcome to the NFL's 4th annual Big Data Bowl. After reviewing over 200 submissions, 8 finalist teams were selected.
Prize money-wise, there's $100,000 total, but that's going to be split among all the top models that are submitted by the team. So I think for top 5, there's around $12,000 in the pot.
In the end, our submission was a neural network model that would take in information about the body composition of people in different positions, and then it would predict what an ideal player in that position would look like based on their performance. Our submission didn't generate as much novel insight as we would have liked, so we could have done a little better on our submission.
If we could have talked to an NFL player, the biggest difference that would make is to get expert insight. Now, I've never played football a day in my life, so it's completely different asking someone who's been in the trenches, who's played, what they think is important, what they feel is important versus what we see as important. That's the biggest difference maker.
After graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy, Joe Cardona was drafted by the Patriots in the 5th round, giving him the unique opportunity to play football while continuing to serve his country.
So, Eric, you want to give me some background here?
So one of the challenges that we found was just we were pressed with time. What we kind of tackled was the height and weight statistics, and we tried to link that with their performance tackling. You know, if we could go back, that probably wouldn't be the exact idea we would go with.
Oh, so they just gave you a huge data set and you're like...
Yeah. They're like, tell us something interesting.
This side, looking for a return, spin move. Joe Cardona on the timeline.
Sir, is there anything we should have known about tackling before we dived into this challenge?
Yeah, I think when you look at tackling, when you look at purely like, all right, I got to figure out how to get this guy down. At the end of the day in the NFL, size and speed. So you had one element absolutely right in size, but speed is king. But I think you guys were close. So as you guys take this out into the fleet, don't get discouraged and just find a way to bring in that real world point of view that you guys will have all around you and can really add to and supplement the amount of information you guys are getting from whatever chatbot it may be. So I'm probably a little more long-winded than the chatbots.
Yeah, I mean, this experience talking to Lieutenant Cardona, it is incomparable to what you could get from a chatbot like ChatGPT. And additionally, the connection we have through the Navy, that's something that's far better than you could get from any answer from a machine.
Even though this is a virtual meeting and we don't really have that face-to-face, just knowing that behind the screen, it's a Naval Academy alumni, someone who's been through the same experiences that Joe, Jordan, and I have been through, someone who's chopped through the hall, someone who's had to do chow calls every day. So having that personal element there is a huge game changer.
I'd say that personal relationship and the ability to ask complex questions and get really real-world answers is what we are really taking out of this call. And sir, thank you so much for being here and giving us this opportunity, because it's given us answers and insights that a machine never could, with real-world experience and things like that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because this is not by no means an area of expertise, but it was an application to something that I do know about. So I think that there's elements of this in what we do on a daily basis and how we're going to leverage machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever it is, to do the most important task that we have, and that's national security, point blank. This is an exercise here in looking at a problem set to apply to a game, but realistically, it's these reps that we're taking, what you guys learned from this, and it sounds like, not everything was a success the first time around, but you guys practiced fundamentals that will matter down the road. And I have no doubt with the landscape that we're facing, that these reps that you've taken, the fundamentals you've built, will have an impact in the mission. So, I think about the human element, and it's right here. I mean, ultimately, machines, for the most part, are going to have operators, and, our ability to train great operators, is what's going to let us utilize these tools effectively.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir, so much.
Have a good start. Have a good spring break.
Thanks, sir.
A postscript to this story is that the machine learning team did not win any prizes, but they learned a lot in this process.
When these new waves appear, there are always these grand pronouncements about how this is fundamentally going to change everything, how it's going to improve everything.
The problem with these grand pronouncements about technology is they usually don't account for the diffusion and adoption of disruptive technologies. We have some experience with that here at the Naval Academy. Aviation is a great example. 7 years after the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk, the United States Navy launches the first aircraft from a warship. The following year, 1911, it lands the first aircraft on a warship. And in that same year, in a place you can see just outside my window, the first flight school is founded at Greenbury Point. So if you fast forward to today, about a quarter of graduates of the Naval Academy become aviators in either the Navy or the Marine Corps. You can see how that adoption and diffusion of this disruptive technology, aviation in this case, has certainly transformed the way the Navy operates and how we approach education at the Naval Academy.
Someone who's been through the same experiences that Joe, Jordan, and I have been through, someone who's chopped through the hall, someone who's had to do chow calls every day. So having that personal element there is a huge game changer.
I can't imagine a better example than that of the need for a human relationship to augment information served up in generative AI. The very fact that they can bring in somebody with the perspective that they share, they understand, that being a midshipman at the United States Naval Academy, together with experience as a player in the NFL to augment the information provided by the bot. Those three things together, that now constitutes education.
You guys practice fundamentals that will matter down the road. And I have no doubt with the landscape that we're facing, that these reps that you've taken, the fundamentals you've built, will have an impact in the mission.
What a perfect metaphor for the Naval Academy experience. Getting reps while you're here. So you can fail at things. But when we get out to the real world, when our graduates go out to the fleet, in the Navy and the Marine Corps, the stakes are going to be far greater. And as a result, they're going to benefit from the reps that they get here. That's kind of the whole purpose to having a conversation about artificial intelligence. We learn while we're here, we gain from it as best we can for the future application in the real world, possibly in the most hostile environments of combat. Because after all, job one is to prepare leaders to fight wars and win wars.